Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, March 27th, 2026. I'm Ed Kavik, November 2 Echo Charlie. In the log this week, we'll have a contest spotlight for the CQ Worldwide WPX contest. Also get a DXpedition update for CY0S in Sable Island. Also get another DXpedition update for S21 Whiskey Delta in Bangladesh. We'll also remind you that Amateur Radio News and Notes will be off the air next week as we are on a spring break. We'll talk about some MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and take a look at interesting online radio content. As always, links to all reference content can be found in the show notes or at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. This weekend continues the fun of contest season with a CQ Worldwide WPX contest on single sideband. CW comes at the end of May. WPX is one of the most popular contests of the year and an easy way to work a ton of DX very quickly. The objective of this contest is to make as many contacts with as many different prefixes as possible during the 48 hours of the contest. The fun starts at 0 UTC on Saturday, March 28th. That's 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday night, until 23:59 UTC on Sunday. That's 7:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday night. The bands of operation are the 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10-meter bands, and the exchange is RST plus a progressive serial number starting with 001. So for my 40-second contact, the exchange would be 5942. The score is the total number of QSO points multiplied by the number of distinct prefixes worked. For the purposes of the contest, a prefix is the letter and number combination forming the first part of a call. So for me, November 2 Echo Charlie, my prefix would be November 2. As you can imagine, there are a lot of prefixes out there, so these multipliers can escalate quickly, and the contest encourages a lot of rare prefixes and other special event stations on the air. QSO points between stations on the same continent but different countries are worth 1 point on the high bands, that's 10, 15, and 20 meters, and 2 points on the low bands, that's 40, 80, and 160 meters. North American stations only get 2 points on the high bands and 4 points on the low bands. Contacts between stations on different continents are 3 points on the high bands and 6 points on the low bands. Entry categories include single operator all band or single band at QRP, that's 5 watts or less, low power, 100 watts or less, or high power, up to 1500 watts. There are also overlay categories for single operators for tri-bander or single element antennas, a rookie category for ops licensed less than 3 years, classic operator where ops will only run 24 of the 48 hours and use no spotting assistance, and youth with ops of 25 years of age and younger. For multi-operator categories, all band only, there is a single transmitter or multi-1 or at high and low power, 2 transmitter or multi-2, and multi-transmitter or multi-unlimited with a maximum of 6 transmitters, 1 per band at any one time. There's also a multi-transmitter distributed or multi-distributed, which allows for up to 6 signals from different locations so long as they are in the same DXCC entity and CQ zone. Logs must be submitted within 48 hours of the end of the contest. The full details and rules can be found at cqwpx.com/rules. Good luck. And now it's time for a DXpedition update. As we went to press, the CY0X DXpedition in the Sable Island had over 76,000 QSOs in log on their Club Log live stream. They have been all over the bands and loud to the East Coast. This week, Tim K3LR of DX Engineering interviewed the team from Sable Island and got an idea of how their operation has been going and what the setup looks like. They'll be on Sable Island until March 31st, so if you haven't gotten them in the logs, now is the time. More information can be found at links in the show notes. And now let's do another DXpedition update. Another active DXpedition is Sierra 21 Whiskey Delta in Bangladesh, who had logged over 38,000 QSOs as we went to press in the log on their Club Log live stream. This DXpedition is being led by a group of young amateurs and has been very successful so far. They plan to be on the air until April 1st, so look for them on the bands. More information can be found at their site. That's next-generation-dx.com/S2. Good luck. And now just a quick reminder, Amateur Radio News and Notes will be taking the week off next week for spring break, so there won't be an edition next week. We plan to be back in action on April 10th for the next episode. In the meantime, we wish you and yours a great start to spring and good DX. And now let's take a quick look at MVARC Nets on the air. The 2-meter FM net happens on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater, and that is immediately followed by the 2-meter digital net on Yaesu System Fusion's C4 FM on the same frequency. And then on the weekends, we have the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable on Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz CW. That is immediately followed by the MVARC Cherry Tree Net on Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on 3.920 megahertz lower sideband, where we always have a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. Now let's take a look at what is happening with DX. There will be a lot of DX on the air in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to tell you all about it since we're not going to be around next weekend. Stations on the air include Sable Island, Bangladesh, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, Madeira Islands, Martinique, Bermuda, Central Kiribati, Antigua, Greenland, Cook Islands, Macau, Vanuatu, Ghana, St. Martin, South Orkney Islands, Austral Islands, Minami Torishima, Colombia, and Solomon Islands. A calendar of DXpeditions can be found at dxnews.com/calendar. And now it's time for a solar activity update as we go to press. The Solar Flux Index, or SFI, was 152, and the estimated sunspot number was 103, with 7 numbered sunspot regions visible from Earth. Over the last week, the SFI has increased. Solar activity has been at moderate levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field has been at quiet to unsettled levels in the last 24 hours, and the KP index reached 3 yesterday. The solar wind peaked at 543 kilometers per second. Solar activity is predicted to be at low levels with a chance of M-class flares today through Sunday. The geomagnetic field is forecast to be at quiet to unsettled levels today and Sunday, and at quiet levels on Saturday. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 1% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are possible in the near term with a predicted probability of 30% today through Sunday, and R3 or greater blackouts are unlikely with a 5% chance predicted today through Sunday. It remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see dealer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page, and to see real-time maximum usable frequency, or MUF, and critical frequency, or FOF2 information from Radioson data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests. This weekend brings the CQ Worldwide WPX contest we talked about on single sideband. Also the Sasquatch Stomp, the Bill Windy QSO Party, and the Africa All Mode International DX Contest. Now, next weekend, that'll bring the Louisiana QSO Party, the Mississippi QSO Party, the YB-DXPI Single Sideband Contest, the PODXS 070 New Member Jamboree, the EA RIDI Contest, and the SPDX Contest. As always, the K1 USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And now let's wrap things up with some interesting online radio content. Just as a reminder, everything we're about to discuss here, the links are in the show notes and also at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. Mort G4BSK shows us how to test QRP Labs QMX Power PCBs. Stuart VE9CF tells you why you should do CQWPX this weekend. Craig KM6LYW makes a radio data go box. Mike K8MRD shows us the impressive mobile setup of David and Zero LUV. Kevin 2E0 Whiskey Mike Golf takes us along for a paddle in his kayak as the tides rise. Walt K4OGO gives his top 5 vertical antennas and announces his new book. Tim K3LR talks to CY0S team from Sable Island. Stuart VE9CF talks to Tim K3LR about radio contesting. Thomas K4SWL shows us the new handheld Pebble HF rig. Stuart VE9CF shows us how to customize the output of Polo for your activations. Walt K4OGO deploys an Envis antenna on the beach. Ben VE6SFX shows us his slot antenna design for 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Hayden VK7HH talks about using Whisper for antenna testing. James Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zulu November does some satellite work while portable. Mike K8MRD talks about 3D prints for amateur radio. And Pia, DL7 PIA, talks about her mother, Petra, DL5 PIA's award-winning run for the YLWWA in 2026. Well, that is it for this week. I've been Ed, November 2 Echo Charlie. Thanks, as always, for coming along with us. Again, we'll be taking the week off next week, but then we'll be back on April 10th. We hope that you have a great 2 weeks ahead. That's 73. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.